just keeps getting better, don't it? As soon as I posted my last video, you know what? 30 minutes later, there comes the lawsuit, you know? The Mountain West basically coming out saying, they're eating the teams, the Pac-12 that came in. They're eating the Mountain West Conference. They're eating the teams of the fans that are out there, and that is what is happening in realignment. I don't know why I did that connection, but I just thought it was funny. The Mountain West Conference Commissioner released a statement, and that just made me think of it. But basically, I want to dive into what we have known since they dropped the update with the lawsuit. Let's dive right in. As I said, the Pac-12 filed a lawsuit against the Mountain West, claiming that its 5 new schools should not be required to pay over $50 million, which is more than $10 million per school, for a Mountain West Conference poaching penalty for each school the Pac-12 got from the Mountain West Conference. This is actually separate from the $17 million exit fee, which each school will and must pay. The Pac-12 acknowledged that Utah State was admitted through the document yesterday, also saying that the Mountain West Conference asked for $30 million from Oregon State and Washington State to extend the football scheduling agreement. And this is where it got interesting, because now everyone's looking at the Mountain West Conference like, hey, now, that was not cool. So this whole situation, I don't know if it's the spy versus spy thing. It basically, I just think of two people shaking hands, smiling, and both of them have a knife behind their back is the best way I can kind of explain this situation. But let's get into it. So $30 million, you're like, that doesn't sound like a lot when you're talking about college football, but it really is, because in 2023, the Pac-12 and Mountain West Conference, they signed a 2024 scheduling agreement where Oregon State and Washington State would play 6 schools from the Mountain West Conference on their schedules in exchange for $14 million, and in this agreement, the sides would also work in good faith to potentially merge their leagues. But now the Pac-12 is basically arguing that the tens of millions of dollars that it owes to the Mountain West poaching fees due to the prior scheduling agreement amounts to an antitrust violation. I'm no lawyer by any means. A lot of the stuff that I've read, I don't even know half the words that are on there. If you've ever seen the movie Good Burger, I felt like Ed reading the sheet of paper. He's like, I know some of these words. I've been trying my best. I by no means am a legal expert. But this is quotes from the document, or the complaint. This is not me speaking. The poaching penalty saddles the Pac-12 with exuberant and punitive monetary fees for engaging in competition by accepting Mountain West Conference member schools into the Pac-12. The complaint reads, the Mountain West Conference imposed this poaching penalty at a time when the Pac-12 was desperate to schedule football games for its 2 remaining members and had little leverage to reject this naked restraint on competition. But that does not make the poaching penalty any less illegal. And the Pac-12 is asking the court to declare this provision invalid and unenforceable. Knowing that the Pac-12 was running out of time and short on leverage, the Mountain West Conference not only charged the Pac-12 supra-competitive prices to schedule football games, over $14 million for Oregon State and Washington State for just 6 games each, but it also forced the Pac-12 to accept an unprecedented poaching penalty provision, that's a lot of P's, wholly unrelated to scheduling football games and designed to limit the Pac-12's ability to compete with the Mountain West Conference for years into the future, even after the scheduling agreement will expire. That was a lot, but end quote there. So included in this complaint, we actually found out about the letter that the Mountain West Conference sent to the Pac-12, saying the Pac-12 would owe $43 million in poaching fees, and the Pac-12 responded in a September 24th letter. That first letter was sent on September 12th, and the Pac-12 basically said, nope, they're unenforceable. Nope. After the Mountain West was like, look, you owe us our money, Pac-12's like, nope, not enforceable. And apparently sources close to Dellinger said on this situation over the past 2 weeks that the Pac-12 has felt that they can get out of these fees in some way, somehow. And the Mountain West is sitting here like, dude, that shit's plainly laid out in the contract, brother. You're going to pay that. Like, that's how it works. But now it looks like, going to go to court to decide this. I mean, unless they come to a settlement, which usually is how this stuff plays out. But this is a weird situation. I mean, it's like straight up conference on conference. I don't necessarily think we've seen like school against conference, but I don't know if we've seen conference on conference in a situation like this. So this is getting weird. I'm guessing it'll probably end up in like a settlement, like lessen the cost of the teams actually leaving. So like working down this payment to like a certain percentage of what it initially is, but the exit fees will still be there, like I said. But it seems like both these schools are really just conferences are really just pissed off at each other, and they're like, I don't care anymore, like we're throwing everything at the wall. But they apparently, people keep saying the 2 schools acknowledged during negotiations that the penalty was unenforceable and illegal, but it's even apparently stated in the document, but there's not much explanation around that exact statement, but that statement has been tossed around a lot, but there's no like true clarification. I'm sitting here like, okay, if everyone's talking about that, why is there not more in-depth about that exact saying? But I don't know how that's going to work legally. But the thing is here, with all that money now going into a legal situation, that's the money that the Mountain West is trying to use to be like, UNLV, Air Force, hey, come on, let's stay. And now the Pac-12 is like, no, we don't have to pay that money. That money is basically now up in the air, and that's the money they need to convince UNLV. So now you're talking about millions of dollars tied up in whatever the heck this is. So now I kind of want to hit some possibilities. None of this necessarily is true. This is just kind of some conclusions I came to when I talked about like two people shaking their hands with knives behind their back. So when I'm looking at the Mountain West Conference, could it possibly be that they weren't even wanting to merge with the Pac-12, that they basically wanted to milk the cash cow and get as much money out of them as they could until the Pac-12 failed to reach the certain amount of teams it need, and then they absorb the two schools in Oregon State and Washington State after they basically milk all their money and get it, and then they take them in. Then we look at when the merger happened, and they increased it to $30 million, obviously, which we saw. It seemed to really tick off the Pac-12, and you got to think, maybe they went into that meeting with the Pac-12 thinking there's a merger possible, since we're already getting close to that 2025 meeting. They're like, look, they don't have any teams yet. Like, this could be possible that they're wanting to merge now. And then they were like, okay, we're not going to end up merging. They don't want to merge. And then they're like, you know what? Screw it. $30 million. And then the Pac-12's like, no. So, because the Mountain West Conference, you got to think, they know about that money that the Pac-12 has. The war chest that everyone's claiming is around for the Pac-12, it looks like the Mountain West Conference wants to get their hands in there. And I'm thinking, like I said in the first thing, they wanted to get as much money as they could from them. And they thought they were going to get a ton of money from desperation of the Pac-12 trying to do that. But the Pac-12 is also in fight or flight mode. I mean, and now you're resulting where we are today. And it's just kind of confusing. But I'm just trying to think of possibilities or hypotheticals of why we are where we're at. And then from the Pac-12 side of things, you know, Oregon and Washington State, I feel like they knew they were going to poach, and they knew an agreement in 2025 would actually slow down trying to get where they need to be by 2026. So they didn't want to actually come to an agreement, and they knew they were going to poach the whole time, no matter how things played out. And basically they were like, look, we're going to sit here. We get this first year. All we need to do is be able to stay afloat. And that's basically like, unless a power conference ends up taking us, like with all realignment, if stuff keeps happening, we have this first thing with the Mountain West Conference. And if we end up getting picked up, good. But if we don't, we're going to go in there and we're going to take all their top brands, have less schools, and have more money per school, and basically cut the top half off the Mountain West, add it in with us, and then we can go there from there with money and try to get more brands that are valuable than the lower Mountain West Conference brands. And that's just, it seems like both sides both had their, well, I think both can be true. I don't know if I'm necessarily correct. Like, I think the Mountain West Conference was basically just trying to milk the Pac-12 dry as much money as they could now and then spread it between their schools before they end up absorbing Oregon State and Washington State when they eventually don't have a conference in time. And then the Pac-12 was basically like, you are our life raft and until we get picked up by a bigger conference. And if we don't, we're just going to cut the head off the snake and take everything that's valuable to you. But, I mean, everything we're looking at right now is speculation. No one knows what's going on behind closed doors. But this is the best way to kind of put it right now. If I could make a really short summary, the Mountain West Conference is like, look, we got tons of money from the poaching fees, UNLV. You can have some of this money. But now the Pac-12 has sued, which now that poaching money is kind of held, or it may not even be there. So then this either gets settled very quickly or it draws out over time, and if it gets settled, then there may be less money, and then UNLV is like, oh, that's not as much money as we wanted. And then if it takes too long, then UNLV's kind of sitting here like, this is taking a while, like, what if we don't move now? What if we miss out on something, and then maybe they end up moving quickly because they're like, feel pressure to do so, and then UNLV goes to the Pac-12, and then if UNLV leaves, then maybe Air Force follows them, and if they don't go to the Pac-12, then maybe Air Force goes to the American, and now everything's up in the air. No pun intended, Air Force, but it's crazy. But everyone's like, why is there not a merger? Why is there not a reverse merger? Why don't they just go into the Mountain West? Mountain West do with them. It's all about money. It's always about money. The Pac-12 has a better brand name. They have more money in the war chest, so they can get more money through TV, and they can consolidate the teams to a better amount. It's all about the money. And the thing that I see, the way this going, basically, of how the Pac-12 thinks it's going to go, it's basically, look, they win this suit, and then they don't have to pay poaching fees, and then you use that money to pay for the AAC exit fees to join the Pac-12, which one of you guys commented on my last video, Western Civic Capital 3075. He said, if this is done right, and this was before the legal stuff came out, he said, if this is done right, the Pac-12 will incorporate the two most football crazy regions in the country, the South and the Midwest. Memphis and Tulane, UTSA or Texas State and Rice, Utah State and Wyoming, South Florida and Southern Miss, UConn and Georgia State. Which I think I kind of agree with him. That's what I'm saying. If the Pac-12 wins this and they don't have to pay poaching fees, you get to keep all those millions of dollars and potentially go pay the AAC exit fees. So I don't think this is anywhere far from done. I mean, shoot, just like the last video, this video could become relevant in an hour. I've tried my best to explain all this as well. This is absolutely insane. Like, this is like God playing college football 25 and realigning everything, and we just don't know what's going on. But it's just crazy. I try to keep y'all up to date on this stuff. I'll still have more video updates coming. Have a great night. If you're a fan of one of these teams or whatever, I know you're going to be refreshing your news just like I am and figuring out how things play out. But that's what we got for now.